The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so quiet. 300 representatives from 12 species sat in their elevated seats, watching the lone human standing at the central platform. Ambassador Daniel Hayes wore his formal black suit, the small Earth flag pinned to his chest. His face showed no anger. His voice carried no bitterness. He simply stood there, holding a single document in his hands. The Human Federation acknowledges Resolution 7741, he said calmly. We accept the Council's decision. High Arbiter Vorath leaned forward in his throne. The old Selvian had led the Council for 60 years. His gray skin wrinkled as he frowned. This was not the reaction he had expected. Humans were known for their passion, their loud protests, their refusal to accept defeat. Yet this human spoke as if he were reading a weather report. You accept? Vorath asked. Just like that? Hayes nodded slowly. The Council has voted to remove humanity from all trade agreements. You have stripped us of our territorial claims in the Outer Reach. You have revoked our diplomatic recognition. You have demanded we surrender our shield technology or face complete isolation. He paused and looked around the chamber. We will not surrender our technology. Therefore, we accept isolation. Councilor Dreth of the Corvani Empire laughed from his seat. The reptilian warrior had pushed hardest for the resolution. He had spent years warning the Council about human expansion, human ambition, human danger. Now he was enjoying his victory. The humans finally show wisdom, Dreth said loudly. They know they cannot stand against the United Council. Hayes turned to look at Dreth. His expression remained calm, almost peaceful. We are not standing against anyone, Counselor. We are simply leaving. Leaving? Asked Counselor Yemeth, the elderly Theshan diplomat. Her 4 eyes blinked with confusion. What do you mean, leaving? All human citizens will withdraw from Council space within 30 standard days, Hayes explained. Our merchant ships will complete their current contracts and depart. Our stations will be emptied and powered down. Our patrol fleets will return to human territory. In 1 month, there will be no human presence in any system under Council authority. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Representatives whispered to each other. This was unprecedented. No species had ever voluntarily withdrawn from Council space. Most would fight, negotiate, or beg for reconsideration. The humans were doing none of these things. High Arbiter Vorath raised his hand for silence. Ambassador Hayes, perhaps we can discuss modifications to the resolution. The Council does not wish for complete separation. We simply require assurances regarding your military technology. Hayes shook his head. With respect, High Arbiter, the time for discussion has passed. For 112 years, humanity has been a member of this Council. We have shared our medicine, our engineering, our agricultural techniques. We have defended convoy routes. We have responded to distress calls from worlds that publicly called us dangerous. We have asked for nothing except friendship and fair treatment. He held up the document in his hand. This resolution declares humanity a potential threat to galactic stability. It removes all our rights while demanding we expose our defensive secrets. The message is clear. We are not wanted here. Now wait, Vorath said, his voice growing worried. The resolution is a precaution, not a rejection. Humanity remains a valued part of the galactic community. Does it? Hayes asked quietly. He looked at the assembled representatives. How many of you voted for this resolution? Please raise your hands. Slowly, reluctantly, hands and tentacles and claws rose throughout the chamber. 9 of the 12 species had voted yes. Only the Theshans, the Morath, and the small Valari delegation had voted no. Hayes nodded. 9 species. 9 peoples who decided that humanity is too dangerous to trust. We understand. We do not agree, but we understand. and we will not stay where we are not welcome. Counselor Dreth stood up. Good. Leave then. The galaxy will be safer without your warships and your secrets and your endless expansion. Hayes looked at Dreth for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something others did not. The galaxy will be different without us, Hayes said softly. I hope it will be what you wanted. He turned back to address the full chamber. The Human Federation will honor all existing contracts until our departure. We will cause no disruption, no conflict, no incident. We will leave quietly, peacefully, and completely. You will not see our ships in your space. You will not hear our voices on your channels. We will be gone. Hayes began walking toward the exit. Then he stopped and turned back one final time. We will remember what you chose today, he said. And so will the galaxy. The doors closed behind him. For several minutes, no one spoke. The council members looked at each other uncertainly. They had won. They had forced the stubborn humans to back down. Yet somehow, it did not feel like victory. High Arbiter Vorath finally broke the silence. The matter is concluded. The council will reconvene tomorrow to discuss distribution of former human trade routes. But as the representatives filed out of the chamber, many of them felt a strange unease. The humans had not fought. They had not raged. They had not threatened. They had simply accepted and announced their departure. In the weeks that followed, the human exodus began. Merchant vessels completed their deliveries and jumped away. Research stations transmitted their final reports and went dark. Patrol ships that had guarded dangerous shipping lanes quietly withdrew. On the border worlds, locals watched human freighters pass by for the last time. Some waved. A few even cried. The humans had been good neighbors, fair traders, reliable friends. Now, they were leaving, and no one could explain exactly why. Admiral Karen Mitchell stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the last human convoy cross out of council space. Her fleet of 40 warships had protected these trade routes for decades. Now they were abandoning them. Admiral, her communications officer said, "We have received our final orders from Earth. All units are to proceed to designated coordinates beyond the rim. No further contact with Council species is authorized." Mitchell nodded slowly, acknowledged the orders, set course for the rim. As her ship turned away from the stars she had defended for 30 years, Mitchell whispered to herself, "They have no idea what they have done." Behind her, the Council's territory grew smaller in the viewscreen. Ahead lay the unknown darkness beyond the galactic rim. And somewhere in that darkness, humanity was preparing for what came next. The Council had made its choice. Now they would live with the consequences. 3 months had passed since the last human ship disappeared beyond the galactic rim. At first, the Council celebrated. Speeches were given about preserving galactic unity and preventing human dominance. Councilor Dreth received honors for his leadership in pushing the resolution. The future seemed bright. Then the problems began. Trade Minister Karoth sat in his office on Selvium Prime, staring at reports he did not want to believe. Shipping losses had increased by 40% in the outer territories. Pirates were attacking convoys that had been safe for decades. 3 communication relay stations had gone dark, cutting off entire sectors from the main network. How is this possible? Karoth demanded. "We have the largest fleet in the galaxy." His assistant, a young Selvian named Tareth, shifted nervously. "Sir, the humans maintain most of those relay stations. When they left, they took their technicians with them. We do not have anyone trained to repair the equipment, then train someone. We tried, sir. The technology is human-designed. The documentation they left behind is incomplete. Our engineers estimate it will take 2 years to fully understand the systems. Karaf slammed his fist on the desk. 2 years? We will lose half our trade network in 2 years. Across council space, similar conversations were happening. On the agricultural world of Desha, food shipments were delayed because the cargo ships no longer had human escorts through dangerous regions. On the mining colonies of the Corvani border, workers reported seeing unknown vessels watching from a distance. The council fleet was spread too thin to patrol everywhere. The humans had once protected. Captain Nathan Cole watched all of this from his small ship hidden in an asteroid field near the council border. He was one of dozens of human intelligence officers assigned to monitor the situation. His orders were simple: observe and report. Do not interfere. Do not make contact. Let events unfold naturally. Cole had served in council space for 15 years. He had friends among the Deshans, and even a few Selvians who had treated humans fairly. Watching them suffer was difficult. But he understood why his government had chosen this path. The council needed to learn. They needed to understand what they had lost. In the Great Chamber, Councillor Yemeth addressed the assembly. The old Deshan had opposed the resolution from the beginning. Now she stood before her colleagues with data tablets showing the growing crisis. Shipping losses are the highest in 60 years, she said. Medical supplies from human pharmaceutical stations are running out. The Valari homeworld is facing an epidemic because the treatment was manufactured exclusively in human facilities. And we have received distress calls from 17 colony worlds that have no one to answer them. Councillor Dreth waved his claw dismissively. These are temporary difficulties. The council will adapt. We always have. How? Yemeth demanded. The humans did not just trade with us. They built infrastructure we depended on. They maintained systems we never learned to operate. They protected routes we assumed were naturally safe. She pointed at the data. We did not just lose a trading partner. We lost the foundation of our security. High Arbiter Vorath looked troubled. Surely you exaggerate, Counselor. The humans were one species among 12. They cannot have been so essential. Yemeth laughed bitterly. Do you know why the Vraxian horde has not raided our borders in 40 years? Because the humans stopped them. Every year, human patrol fleets intercepted Vraxian scouts before they could report our weaknesses. Every year, human soldiers died fighting an enemy most of you did not even know existed. They never asked for recognition. They never demanded payment. They simply protected us because it was the right thing to do. The chamber fell silent. I did not know this, Vorath said quietly. No one did, Yemeth replied, because no one asked. We were happy to enjoy safety without questioning where it came from. Now the humans are gone, and the Vraxians will soon realize that no one is guarding the border anymore. Dreth stood up angrily. This is human propaganda. The Vraxians are a minor threat. The council fleet can handle them easily. Can it? Yemeth asked. Our fleet is designed for patrol and peacekeeping. The humans had dedicated warships built for heavy combat. When they fought the Vraxians, they used tactics and weapons we have never seen. Can our captains match that? Can our ships survive battles the humans trained their whole lives to fight? No one answered. That night, High Arbiter Vorath received a private message on a channel that should have been inactive. The transmission was encrypted with codes only humans used. When he finally decoded it, the message contained only one line. You wanted us gone. We obliged. What comes next is not our concern. There was no signature, no return address, no way to respond. The humans were watching, but they had no intention of helping. Vorath sat alone in his chamber for a long time, thinking about the choices that had led to this moment. He had allowed the resolution to pass because he believed it would bring stability. He had trusted Dreth's warnings about human ambition. He had ignored the quiet contributions humans made every day to keep the galaxy running. Now the galaxy was falling apart. and the humans were somewhere beyond the rim, building a new future without the Council. On the border, Captain Cole received orders from Earth. He was to remain in position for 6 more months, recording everything. If any Council species attempted to contact humanity through official channels, he was to respond with silence. If any Council species attempted to attack human assets, he was authorized to defend himself with whatever force necessary. But no one attacked. No one even tried to contact them. The Council was too busy dealing with the chaos to think about reconciliation. Ships were being lost. Worlds were going hungry. Old enemies were stirring, and somewhere in the darkness beyond, known space, humanity waited patiently, watching their former allies learn the price of betrayal. Cole looked at the stars and wondered how long it would take before the Council understood. How many would die before they admitted their mistake? How much would be lost before they came begging for help? He did not know the answers, but he knew that humanity would remember this. They would remember every ship that stopped coming, every hand that turned against them, every vote that cast them out. And when the time came, humanity would make a choice about whether the Council deserved a second chance. 8 months after humanity's departure, the Vraxian horde crossed the border. The first attack came without warning. A Kovani mining colony detected unknown ships entering their system just minutes before the bombardment began. Distress calls went out to the Council fleet, but help was hours away. By the time patrol ships arrived, the colony was burning and the Vraxians were gone. Commander Veth of the Corvani military stood in the ruins, looking at bodies that had been torn apart by weapons unlike anything in his training. The Vraxians were supposed to be primitive raiders, barely capable of interstellar travel. These attackers had used coordinated tactics, advanced sensors, and firepower that matched Council warships. How is this possible? Veth demanded. Intelligence reports said the Vraxians were no threat. His communications officer handed him a damaged data tablet recovered from the wreckage. Sir, we found something in the old colonial archives. There are records of human military operations in this sector going back 40 years. They were classified until now. Veth read the files with growing horror. The humans had been fighting a secret war against the Vraxians for decades. They had destroyed Vraxian shipyards, assassinated Vraxian warlords, and disrupted Vraxian supply lines. They had kept the enemy weak and blind, unable to threaten Council space. And they had never told anyone. Why? Veth whispered. Why did they not ask for help? The communications officer shook his head. The records do not say, sir, but there are estimates here. Human casualties over 40 years. The numbers are... He paused, unable to continue. Veth looked at the number. 18,000 human soldiers had died protecting borders that were not their own, defending species that would eventually vote to exile them. They had sacrificed their children for a galaxy that called them dangerous. Within weeks, 2 more colony worlds felt of Vraxian attacks. The Council fleet scrambled to respond, but they were always too late, always in the wrong position. The Vraxians knew where the defenses were weak. They had spent decades probing human lines, learning human tactics. Now those lines were gone, and nothing stood in their way. On a forgotten research station at the edge of Council space, Dr. Laura Bennett hid among Deshan refugees. She was the only human left in this part of the galaxy, a scientist who had stayed behind to complete her research when the evacuation orders came. Now she was trapped, unable to reach human territory, surviving on the kindness of strangers. The refugees gathered around her, asking questions she did not want to answer. Why did your people leave us? An old Deshan woman asked. We were friends. My daughter married a human. My grandchildren are half human. Why did they abandon us? Lavra looked at the frightened faces surrounding her. These were innocent people who had done nothing wrong. They had not voted for the resolution. They had not demanded human exile. Yet they were suffering because of decisions made by distant politicians. We did not want to leave, Lavra said carefully, but we could not stay where we were not wanted. The council made it clear that humanity was a threat to be contained. We could not live with that judgment hanging over us. But surely you knew what would happen, a young Beshan male said. Without your protection, without your technology. Lavra nodded sadly. We knew. Our leaders planned for this moment for years. We built new colonies beyond the rim. We moved our infrastructure piece by piece. When the resolution passed, we were ready to leave within a month because we had been preparing for decades. The refugees looked at each other in shock. You knew the council would betray you, the old woman sighed. We hoped they would not, Lavra replied. But we prepared for the possibility that they would. That is what humans do. We hope for the best and prepare for the worst. She pulled out a small communication device. I have a way to contact my people. I can ask them to send a ship to evacuate you to human space. But I must warn you, if you leave with me, you may never be able to return. Humanity is not coming back to the council. If you join us forever. The refugees did not hesitate. Every single one of them agreed to leave in the council chamber. Chaos reigned. Representatives shouted at each other, blaming different species for the current disaster. The Corvani accused the Selvians of poor leadership. The Selvians blamed the Corvani for pushing the anti-human resolution. The smaller species demanded protection that the council could not provide. High Arbiter Vorath slammed his staff against the floor for silence. We must focus on the enemy, not each other. The Vraxians are the threat, not our fellow council members. The Vraxians are a symptom, Councillor Yemeth said coldly. The disease is our own arrogance. We cast out the one species that could protect us, and now we face the consequences. Then we must bring them back, another councillor suggested. Send envoys to human space. Apologize. Offer whatever they want. Dreth laughed bitterly. You think they will return? You think they will forgive what we did? The humans are gone. They are building a new civilization somewhere beyond our reach. They do not need us anymore. Then what do you suggest? Vorath demanded. Dreth had no answer. For the first time in his life, he had no confidence, no plan, no certainty. He had spent years warning about human danger, and now he realized that the true danger had been pushing humanity away. That night, Vorath received another encrypted message. This one was longer than the last. 3 colony worlds have fallen. 17,000 council citizens are dead. Your fleet is failing. Your alliances are crumbling. We could have prevented this. We chose not to. Not because we hate you. Because you needed to learn that protection is not given freely. It must be valued. It must be earned. Perhaps one day you will understand what you lost. Perhaps one day you will deserve to have it back. Until then, the silence will continue. Vorath wept alone in his chamber, understanding at last that humanity's judgment was not punishment. It was a lesson, and the galaxy would pay for that lesson in blood until the council learned to value what it had thrown away. 14 months after humanity's departure, the Vraxian horde launched its full invasion. 300 warships crossed the border in a single wave, targeting the homeworlds of the council species. The council fleet met them in desperate battle and was shattered within hours. Selvium Prime burned. The great cities that had stood for 10,000 years crumbled under orbital bombardment. Millions fled to underground shelters that had never been designed for such catastrophe. High Arbiter Vorath watched from his bunker as his civilization died around him. Send another message to the humans, he ordered. Tell them we will give them anything they want. Anything at all. His communications officer shook his head. Sir, We have sent 47 messages. There has been no response. Not even an acknowledgement that they received our transmissions. Vorath closed his eyes. Then we are alone. But not everyone accepted defeat. Counselor Dreth gathered the survivors of the Corvani fleet and led a desperate expedition to the last known human coordinates. His ships were damaged, his crew exhausted, his supplies running low. But he had to try. Pride had brought them to this disaster. Perhaps humility could save what remained at the edge of known space. Dreth found nothing but an automated beacon floating in the void. When his ships approached, the beacon activated and projected a holographic message. President Eric Palmer appeared before them, a tall human with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple uniform without medals or decorations. His voice was calm and measured. To any council vessel receiving this message, Palmer began, "I am the president of the Human Federation. If you are here, it means your situation has become desperate enough that you seek our help. I understand. I truly do." Dreth watched the recording with growing hope. Perhaps the humans would return after all. Perhaps they would save the galaxy one more time. For over a century, humanity offered the galaxy friendship, partnership, and protection, Palmer continued. We shared our knowledge freely. We defended your borders without asking for payment. We responded to every distress call, helped every refugee, aided every world that asked for assistance. And in return, you voted to exile us. You called us dangerous. You demanded we expose our defensive secrets or face isolation. The hologram paused, and Palmer's expression grew sad. We chose isolation, not because we wanted to abandon you, but because we could not remain among those who feared us more than they valued us. We have built a new home beyond the rim. We have founded new colonies, established new trade routes, created a new civilization. We are safe. We are prosperous. We do not need the council anymore. Dreth felt his hope fading. However, Palmer said, we have not forgotten who we are. Humanity does not abandon the innocent to suffer for the sins of their leaders. Therefore, we offer this choice. Any species, any world, any individual who wishes to leave the council and join humanity may do so. You will receive full citizenship, full protection, and full rights under human law. You will be welcomed as equals, not as refugees or supplicants. The hologram looked directly at the camera, as if speaking to Dreth personally. But we will not save the council. Then we will not save the council. We will not fight your war. We will not sacrifice more human lives for a galaxy that cast us out. If you want our protection, you must become one of us. That is the only offer we will make. Choose wisely. The recording ended. Dreth sat in silence for a long time, thinking about what he had just heard. The humans were not coming back to save them, but they were offering a way out. He transmitted the message to every council world that could still receive communications. Within days, the Deshan civilization announced its decision. They were leaving the council and joining humanity. Their entire population began preparing for evacuation. Admiral Karen Mitchell appeared at the Deshan border with 40 human warships. They were not there to attack. They were there to escort refugees. Dreth traveled to meet her, hoping for some chance at negotiation. His shuttle docked with her flagship, and he was escorted to the bridge. Mitchell stood waiting for him, her face unreadable. Admiral, Dreth said carefully, I know we have had our differences, but surely you can see that the council is dying. Millions are suffering. The Vraxians will not stop until every world is conquered. You have the power to prevent this. Please, I am begging you, help us. Mitchell looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was ice. You had protectors, Counselor. You cast them out. Find new ones. Dreth felt his legs weaken. Admiral, please. I was wrong. The resolution was a mistake. I know that now. But innocent people are dying. Yes, Mitchell agreed. They are. And that is a tragedy. But those innocent people are dying because their leaders chose fear over friendship. Because politicians like you convinced them that humanity was the enemy. She stepped closer to him. Do you know how many human soldiers died protecting your borders? Do you know how many human families lost sons and daughters keeping your people safe? Dreth shook his head. 18,000, Mitchell said. 18,000 humans who will never come home. They died for a galaxy that called them dangerous, that voted to exile their families, that demanded they surrender their defenses. And you want us to send more of our children to die for you? She turned away. The offer stands, Counselor. Any who wish to join humanity may do so. The rest must face their own fate. Now leave my ship. Dreth returned to Council space with nothing. The Kovani fleet made one final stand against the Raxians and was destroyed. Dreth's own ship was damaged in the battle. He ejected in an escape pod and watched as everything he had known disappeared in fire. Behind the battle lines, human ships continued their evacuation. Deshans, Valari, and countless individual refugees from other species were transported to safety. Admiral Mitchell's fleet moved with precision, rescuing anyone who asked for help, ignoring those who still clung to Council authority. The old galaxy was dying. A new one was being born. And humanity stood at the center, offering salvation to those willing to accept it. 2 years after humanity's departure, the war finally ended. Not because the Council won, but because the Raxians ran out of worlds to conquer. The Galactic Council, that had once ruled 12 species, now governed only 7. The Kovani homeworld was a dead rock. The Selvian Empire had collapsed to a handful of surviving colonies. 3 smaller species had been wiped out entirely. What remained was a broken collection of refugees and ruins, scattered across a galaxy that no longer felt safe. High Arbiter Vorath was no longer High Arbiter. There was no council left to lead. He was simply Vorath now, an old Selvian traveling alone on a small ship toward human space. He had sent requests through every channel he could find, begging for an audience with human leadership. After months of silence, he had finally received coordinates and permission to enter there. Territory. What he found amazed him. Human space was thriving. New stations orbited resource-rich worlds. Trade ships moved along busy routes. Cities rose on planets that had been empty wilderness just 2 years ago. And everywhere he looked, Morris saw not just humans, but the Shins, Valari, and dozens of other species working side by side. The humans had not just survived. They had built something greater than anything the Council had ever achieved. His ship was directed to a space station orbiting a blue-green world called New Geneva. There, in a simple conference room with plain walls and basic furniture, Ambassador Daniel Hayes waited for him. Hayes had aged in 2 years. His hair was grayer, his face more lined, but his eyes were the same, calm, intelligent, and impossibly patient. He stood as Vorath entered and gestured to a chair across the table. High Arbiter, Hayes said. Please, sit. I am no longer High Arbiter, Vorath replied, settling into the chair. I am no longer anything. Hayes nodded. I know. I am sorry for what happened to your people. I'm sorry for what happened to all of them. Vorath studied the human's face, looking for signs of satisfaction or revenge. He found none. Hayes seemed genuinely sad, as if the destruction of the Council had brought him no joy whatsoever. Why? Vorath asked. Why did you not destroy us when you had the chance? You could have joined the Vraxians and wiped us out completely. You could have taken everything we had. Instead, you simply left and let events unfold naturally. Hayes leaned back in his chair. Because that is not who we are. Humanity does not seek revenge. We do not want to dominate or conquer. We wanted exactly what we told you from the beginning. Friendship, partnership, a galaxy where everyone works together for the common good. Then why did you refuse to help us? Because you did not want our help, Hayes said gently. You wanted our service. You wanted us to protect you without question, share our technology without protection, sacrifice our children without recognition. That is not partnership. That is exploitation. And we could not accept that role anymore. Vorath lowered his head. We were fools. You were afraid, Hayes corrected. Humanity is different. We come from a harsh world. We evolved to be persistent, adaptable, aggressive when necessary. Those traits made us effective protectors, but they also made us frightening to species who had never faced real predators. I understand why you feared us. I simply wish you had trusted us instead. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, ships moved peacefully through the stars. Children of different species played on the station's observation deck. Life continued, beautiful and hopeful, in a civilization built by those the Council had rejected. What happens now? Vorath asked. The Council is broken. Our worlds are devastated. Our people are scattered. We have nothing left to offer you. Hayes smiled slightly. That is where you are wrong. You have something very valuable to offer. You have experience. You have wisdom. You have made terrible mistakes and learned terrible lessons. That knowledge is precious. He leaned forward. The Human Federation is expanding. We call ourselves the Interstellar Compact now, because we are no longer just humans. Thesians, Valari, refugees from a dozen species have joined us. We are building something new, something better than the old council. And we want you to be part of it. Vorath looked up in surprise. After everything we did? After we exiled you, abandoned you, let your enemies grow strong while we celebrated your departure? Yes, Hayes said simply. After all of that. Because holding on to anger helps no one. Because the galaxy needs unity more than it needs punishment. Because somewhere in the wreckage of the Council, there are good people who deserve a second chance. He reached across the table and offered his hand. Join us, Vorath. Not as a supplicant or a refugee, but as an equal. Help us build a galaxy where no one species dominates, where everyone protects each other, where fear gives way to friendship. That is what humanity always wanted. We are still willing to try if you are. Vorath stared at the offered hand for a long moment. Then, slowly he reached out and took it. I accept, he said. On behalf of what remains of my people, I accept. In the months that followed, the remnants of the old council species joined the Interstellar Compact one by one. They were welcomed without conditions, given land on new worlds, offered places in the growing civilization. The old fears and suspicions faded slowly, replaced by genuine cooperation. Captain Nathan Cole, who had spent 2 years watching from the shadows, was given command of humanitarian operations. His ships carried supplies to devastated worlds, evacuated refugees from dangerous zones, rebuilt infrastructure that had been destroyed. He worked alongside Thesians, Selvians, even former Kovani, who had once called humans the enemy. On the anniversary of humanity's departure, Ambassador Hayes gave a speech to the combined peoples of the Compact. He stood on a stage in a great hall filled with representatives of every surviving species, and he spoke about the future. We did not leave because we hated the Council, Hayes said. We left because we loved ourselves enough to stop begging for acceptance. We left because we knew that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the space to learn from their mistakes. The galaxy has learned. We have all learned. And now we can move forward together. He paused and looked at the assembled faces, human and alien alike. The old council is gone. In its place, we have built something stronger. Not because any one species dominates, but because all species contribute. Not because we fear each other, but because we trust each other. That is the galaxy humanity always dreamed of. And now, finally, that dream is real. The hall erupted in applause. Humans and aliens stood side by side, cheering for a future that had seemed impossible just 2 years ago. Later that night, Hayes stood alone on an observation deck, looking at the stars. Vorath found him there, 2 old men watching the galaxy turn. "Do you think we can truly move past what happened?" Vorath asked. Hayes smiled softly. "I think we already have. The past cannot be changed, but the future is whatever we make it. And I choose to make it hopeful." He turned to face Vorath directly. "We did not return to punish you. We returned because you asked for a second chance. That is all anyone can do. Ask, receive, and try to do better. The rest takes care of itself." Vorath nodded slowly. "Then perhaps there is wisdom in humanity after all." Hayes laughed quietly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps we are just stubborn enough to keep hoping when hope seems foolish. Either way, it has worked out so far." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead, thinking about all that had been lost and all that might yet be gained. The galaxy had judged humanity dangerous and cast them out. Humanity had accepted that judgment quietly, built a new home, and waited. When the galaxy came begging for forgiveness, humanity had offered something better than mercy. They had offered friendship. Again, and this time, the galaxy was ready to accept.